So, where do Chelsea go from here after a humiliating loss to Arsenal? 5-0. That is a hard pill to swallow. Let's be real here. This is a game that 5 years from now we will see posts about how 5 years ago, how Arsenal thumped Chelsea. And it's not going to be a great highlight for any Chelsea fan because there was nothing from this game that we could even take away. And this is why we're talking about this in this video, because I do want to talk about the future for Poch. I do want to talk about the future for the players, the future for this club, and our medical staff, because I think all these are big talking points in this video. Now, we will get to Poch, but we're going to wait to talk about him in just a little bit. I first want to talk about the medical staff. I think this has been a massive issue at this club, not just this year, but last year as well when we had Thomas Tuchel, because there were multiple key factors, key injuries that happen to players that really keep this team well cohesive, really gelled. And even this year, the amount of injuries we've had. Now, yes, you could argue that maybe Poch is working these players harder, but it's the medical staff to make sure that these players are back to fully fit and getting them back. Lavia, we haven't even seen this guy. We've seen him for what, 18 minutes this entire season? You're telling me that the medical staff cannot work with this player to get him fully fit, get him match fit for us to at least get a few games of him this season? Along with those lines, obviously there's been injuries to multiple players throughout this entire season. Reece James, I mean, obviously he's been dealing with multiple injuries, but this again is a story over and over and over again. And there's not much that the manager can do if all his players that he wants to select is injured. Now, I'm not just saying that's Poch. That's with what we saw with Graham Potter last year and Thomas Tuchel, and even with Frank Lampard. There are only a handful of players that we can select when there's so many injuries. And this match against Arsenal, there's just so many injuries. Now, granted, I understand it's probably the worst timing for Cole Palmer to have an illness, but this, I think, really did shed the light on these players, on how injuries have been affecting the squad and how we really haven't been gelling at all this season. Now, that being said, though, we do need to talk about the players as well, because what we saw in that match was embarrassing. There maybe was one player, and that's Gallagher, that I think really showed some worth. And even that being said, when we're losing 5-0, you need players that are really going to step up and just stop the brutal attacks that were coming from Arsenal. And I would say that really there wasn't a single person until Thiago Silva came onto the pitch, which that itself, I'm not even sure why he didn't start this match, because what we saw with our starting lineup, this was a young squad that was really crying out for a solid leader out there, and the only person we could really look forward to was Gallagher. And again, he did do somewhat okay, but overall, this match, like I said, there's just so many factors, so many takeaways on how poorly this organization has been as of lately. Now, again, I think after we go down that first goal in the first 4 minutes, heads were already dropping, which shouldn't happen at a club like Chelsea, especially with professionals, because 4 minutes in, yes, we shouldn't let up a goal. I believe that shot should have been saved, but again, it's here nor there. But the fact that heads were dropping already just shows the mentality is not very high with these players, which is something that really is devastating, because there are games where we've seen other teams, they go down, they come back, they win those games. Chelsea, minus the Manchester United game, and again, that's all Cole Palmer, we haven't really seen that tenacity, that grit from other players. Just grab the game by the scruff and actually win those games besides Cole Palmer. And that has been a key factor why this team has struggled, because we have led games going into half, and then something happens where players just turn off. I'm not sure if something's being said in the locker room or something's happening on the pitch. But once we let up those goals, you just see these things happening over and over, multiple errors. And yes, that is probably leading to the manager, and yes, we still will get to him. But the fact is that a lot of these players are so young that they do not have this hard defensive shell that can't be broken, but it has been broken every single match. And again, watching this is difficult as a fan. And this is where, again, we really need to focus on probably this summer, bringing in some well established players in the Premier League. I don't think we bring players outside the Premier League is going to help this out. Some leadership into the midfield, some leadership in the defense. These are areas that we are really lacking. I don't care how old these players are, bring them in because we are lacking leadership. There's only so much that some of these youth players coming up through the academy can do and bleed for the badge because players around them obviously aren't doing that. And therefore, again, having guys that really want to show what they're worth and again have the leadership and make a huge difference for this club. That then leads me to my third point. This entire club in general, I do believe this is going still in the right direction, which I'm sure I'll probably get some hate. You can comment down if you disagree. I still think that we are going the right direction, even though everything I just said is probably contradicting that. But what we've been seeing lately, we still are seeing us have multiple chances in front of goal. We are scoring a lot of goals. Let's be real here, minus this Arsenal game, which has been something that we weren't doing the last couple of seasons. The only issue is our defense, and I just mentioned that how we really have our heads dropping after letting up a goal. If there's somehow we can really keep that whole defensive line nice and tight and not let goals in, this is a team that I still think has a lot of shining stars, a lot of young talent that really can still grow to be great players in the Premier League, especially at Chelsea. We just need some players around them to help them develop and help keep their heads up in games that, again, we go down and games that we need to just grind out until the 90th minute to get those goals. Because if we have players like that, if we start winning those games like that, this then creates this momentum, this capacity for players realizing, yes, we've done this before, we can do this again, just dig deep, win these games, and therefore, again, I think these players, there's a few that we probably should let go. I'm not going to name them because, again, it depends on the manager, what he thinks, because what we see at game time is different than what they see off the pitch during practice. I think that is a whole another factor that a lot of people aren't factoring in. But that all being said, Pochettino, where do we sit with him? Now, I still am on the fence with him. I can understand now, though, after that match against Arsenal, if you are Poch out, makes total sense. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. My takeaway right now, though, is 2/3 things. Pochettino, I think, has done fairly decent this season. There have been some rocky games, including this Arsenal game, including Burnley, including Sheffield, Nottingham Forest earlier in the season, West Ham. These are games that we definitely should have been winning, and had we been winning those games, this whole season looks completely different. We are almost knocking the top four if we win those games, get all 3 points, but that is not the case. That being said, though, I think, again, there are some issues that Pochettino is lacking with this management at this club. I don't know what exactly it is. Maybe there's something with the board. Maybe it's with some of the players he did want to bring in. We can't bring all those players in. We have such a young squad that I believe any manager that would come into this right now is still going to struggle. I don't care who it is. It could be Jose Mourinho. It could be Flick. It could be Pep Guardiola. I think anyone that's going to come into this is going to struggle because when they're trying to push on their tactics into this squad, there's just so much raw talent that you're trying to do different tactics and not everyone is doing what they should be doing. And when you have those issues, it creates these massive gaps. And when we have those massive gaps, it leads to massive chances for the team to score. And teams definitely can sniff that out against us, and they have been scoring those goals. There are multiple games where we've only let one or two shots, and we let in a goal because it's such a good opportunity for the team. They take advantage of it, and they get that goal, and then we end up drawing or losing those matches. That itself, yes, you could still blame on Poach, but still, there is multiple factors going on with that. So again, I think Poach should stay with this club right now, which again, I'm sure you're probably going to disagree with me. The reason why I still want to see him here is I want to see what happens the rest of the season. I want to see this summer, again, if it goes completely south by the end of the season, I understand if he gets let go, or even if he gets let go before the end of the season, again, makes sense to me. But if he's still here, I want to see what he can do this summer with a few different signings, maybe sell some players, bring some different players in, have another preseason with these guys and see how next year goes, because I think we need to have a long-term manager, especially with these guys having at least 2 seasons with one manager. We can definitely analyze how he does after that, which, yes, we're going to be taking a gamble, because if it goes completely south that second season, then we're looking like we did last season with Thomas Tuchel, with Graham Potter, with Frank Lampard. And again, this is just going to be a revolving door once again, with most likely no titles, no trophies, and it may be some dark ages for Chelsea as us fans. But like I said, I do still have high hopes that this manager can still lead these young players in the right direction. I still think it's going to take some massive work. Let's be real here. This isn't just going to be a 1-2 week fix for all these players, but I do still believe he has the capability. I think he still has a locker room as well, even after this loss. Yes, you could say that maybe some of these players don't trust him anymore. If that's the case, I still would rather see the manager stay than those players, because if a player is already going to go against the manager, the same thing can happen again if we bring a new manager in who doesn't even want to start those players. So again, rather get rid of the deadwood with the players and keep the manager and see how it goes from there. But time will tell to see what our board does, see what Todd Boyd, Clear Lake, what they think with this manager, with these players, and what the future holds for Chelsea. But I do want to know, what do you guys think? Comment down below, hit the like button, subscribe down below if you did enjoy this. I do, though, want to know what you guys think about Chelsea's future. So I'll get into those comments as quickly as I possibly can. That is it, and I will see you in our next video.